The mouth is a cesspool of disease, and if you show up in an emergency room and you punch somebody in the mouth and you've cut yourself, that becomes a medical emergency because the infections that come off of it are horrendous. So today's topic is the anatomy of hands, arms, and strikes. Hands and arm strikes. In other words, it's not just with the fists, you can also hit with other parts of your body. And that, yes, that's Lily whacking me in the forearm. So starting off with the idea, and I keep reminding everybody, the strength ratio of legs to arms on a male human is about 5-to-1, on a female human is about 3-to-1. Thus, the idea of a woman going whack, probably she will need to execute enhancing with the legs.
Yes, backwards, sir.
Legs are 5, arms are 1.
Male and female, sir. Yes. So females.
Oh, sorry. Yep, you're right. Got it backwards. So, in other words, the male leg is closer to the female leg. My fault? Typing too fast today. Different types of arm speeds. So for a reverse punch is when the leg is back and you're striking like this. It's mid-speed. The reason it's mid-speed is while, yes, it's coming fairly quickly, it's coming from the back side. It has high degree of power because you're able to execute with the leg and the arm. A front punch is when you're punching with the leg already front. You can't twist quite as quickly. The power is lower, but it's a bit faster in that you can whip it out as opposed to sling it out. The sling comes from the fact that the shoulders and the hips have to turn. The jab, pap, just comes from the speed of the arms. So it's a little bit faster. Back knuckle, bang, that's a whipping action. Mid power, but it is fairly fast. Palm heel is a nice thing. It's a mid speed, but it is high power, and the reason is most palm heels are executed using the back, from the back leg in the entire line. And then elbow, while it's slower, it is the highest power thing. You can generate more force with that, more energy transfer if you time it right. Okay, upper arm, let's go through the anatomy. You've got this lovely thing. Humerus is this bone here. Nice big bone, wonderful. Lower arm has 2. It has the ulna and the radius, okay? The radius is the larger bone, and the ulna is the smaller bone. The ulna is on the little finger side, so here's this guy's little finger here. This bone is smaller than this bone. Why is that important? Because as you are, for example, blocking, if you block without twisting the arm, then only the ulna strikes the block and you can break that bone very easily. And so in order to avoid that breakage, you have to twist your forearm so that the 2 bones wrap together. That wrapping together, while they'll slide a little bit, gives it a great deal more strength. So this little finger side bone, ulna, and by the way, ulna is shorter than radius, so ulna is the smaller bone, if you wish, is on this side here. And you can see ulna and radius there. Then carrying on, you've got this wrist, dagnabbit, all of these lovely little bones in here. This is why I hate teaching punches. And even when boxing, you'll notice when I boxed, my boxing instructor would never allow us to hit even a heavy bag without having a fully wrapped hand, which took time to wrap that hand. And so, especially if we're doing power work as opposed to speed work, that he didn't mind so much. You could use a glove, but my suggestion to you, if you are going to be doing power strikes to the heavy bag, or if you're going to be hitting targets such as a brick or a board, wrap the hand. Reason mostly is that I worry about a bunch of things. The carpals, these little pebble-like bones in your wrist, are extremely fragile under certain circumstances. So you have to be very careful. Next are the metacarpals. There are 5 bones in here. If I have the hand here once again, it's these 5 bones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They constitute your palm. And so basically your palm's in there. And then you have the phalanges, which are 14 bones that are your fingers. 3 in each finger, except for your thumb, which only has 2. And of course, that's why when you're free sparring, close your fingers. Because if somebody does a quick, bam, quick kick, and you go like that, it will shatter that poor little phalange. Those phalanges are rather delicate. So you got to keep them slightly together, slightly curled in if you're going to be using them for blocking and or deflecting. So that's the basic structure of the thing. Yes, the scapula. The scapula is this bone back here, the shoulder blade, and the clavicle, which is here. These are the structure by which the muscles are attached to the arm. So I'm not going to go over that much. I've gone over to a little bit in some of the other lectures, so I'm going to stick with the arm because we don't have much time. But the take-home message of this is when you are going power, if you're just going pap, then you're just hitting it, you're going for speed and shock, and you're not going to get that much power delivery, then you don't have to twist the wrist. But if you are going to hit with power, you have to twist the wrist going through. So that the two bones wrap and you don't hurt yourself. Nice shot of a reverse punch. On a reverse punch, notice here, what you've got are red muscles. The red muscles are the ones that are dynamic. They are moving. The blue muscles are static. That doesn't mean they're flaccid. It means that they're firm, but they're not moving. And so the blue muscles are for stability. The red muscles are for speed. Notice that there is a whole panoply, I just want to use that word, a whole panoply of muscles here that have to be used in order to get a good strike, which is why the reverse punch is incredibly difficult to master. And that is, especially for small people, you have to learn all of those bits and pieces, the twists, the drive. Notice this is driving. This is a red muscle way back here in that back leg, which is flexing in. One of the things that Dr. Min used to do to us is he would grab a heavy bag, pull it back until it was touching between his legs on the wall. Then he'd have you stand. We used to have dots right under the bags where they hang. And you had to put your front foot on that dot. And you were a badass because I was 18. And you'd sit there, and he'd be talking, and sooner or later he'd let go of that bag. And you were supposed to, bam, hit it hard enough to at least stop it. This is an interesting exercise because most of the people, while you were young and stupid, would hit the bag and it would just spin off in some direction. In other words, the power didn't go much into the bag, you missed. And if you hit a bad guy who's lunging at you and you just do that, they're still going to hit you. If you're going to get it perfect, you have to hit center of mass, you have to hit it perfectly with your legs, arms, hips, shoulders, etc. This is a very dangerous thing. The swinging bag is an interesting test, but it's dangerous. So please do it under supervision. And yes, I'd like to do it today. Problem with the punch is, as I already mentioned, you can break fingers. You can break your carpals, your phalanges, your metacarpals. All these delicate little things in your hand are in danger. So I teach for self-defense. I usually, instead of teaching a punch, which takes a minimum of 2 and usually 3 years to get to the point where you can use it effectively without hurting yourself, palm heel. And even if you know how to use it, if you hit them in the mouth, for example, I'll just punch them in the mouth. Bad idea. The mouth is a cesspool of disease, and if you show up in an emergency room and you punch somebody in the mouth and you've cut yourself, that becomes a medical emergency because the infections that come off of it are horrendous. So here you have largely the same thing. Notice the red muscles from the legs, the static muscles in the torso, and this long reach. The whole line of power has to be done and used correctly. But it strikes at the palm heel here, largely avoiding the metacarpals and the phalanges, the fingers and the palm. A little bit of the carpals are part of it, but it goes straight into the forearm. Notice that there are red muscles in the forearm. Why? Because it is turning the wrist so that the two bones, the ulna and radius, wrap together to give you strength at impact. One of the more entertaining things, breaking some bricks. Everybody loves no. Stupid people like to break bricks. Yes, that's me, actually. You're sitting here, You're hitting with a palm. In order not to hurt your hand, and it does hurt anyway, you have to turn. So notice that all those muscles in the wrist are turning sharply at the moment of impact so that the two bones are wrapped. The next thing is you have to, one of the things that happens so often is people get excited and they go whack and they come in at an angle. For those of you who are into physics or engineering, that's tan theta. You lose a lot of the strength and you can rock it off. One of the worst ones I ever saw was Ron Daly. First time he ever broke bricks. He was a football player. He thought he was tough. He went bam. The first brick broke. He had two more, total of three. The second one took all the skin off of his wrist. The third one actually cut into a tendon. So he just peeled himself. It looked exactly like somebody had taken a carrot peeler to his forearm. It was an ugly, and you saw the skin that was pushed down here in kind of a heap. Oh yeah. Do not do that. You need to have, notice, it says linear drop is critical, meaning come straight down on the beastie if you're going to do it. But the take-home message of this is while you've got all these muscles twisting and moving, notice I can't use my legs. I have to replace the power of the legs with a straight drop down. Master Cummins, an elbow. Love elbow strikes. There are forward elbow strikes, there are back elbow strikes, there's up elbow strikes, there's down elbow strikes. We'll only quickly go through it. But notice the different places of the colors. The red is on two different sides. Why? Because you have to torque in. There's also blue there so that you have an efficient transfer of energy. In other words, if you're just a bowl of Jell-O, all that energy will go and it'll go into the body. You don't want that. You need this lovely torquing action. Again, it drives from the legs all the way through the body, but it also incorporates and has the mandatory twist of the body coming through. What happens if you screw up? Thank you for the x-ray, by the way. If you screw up, there are a couple things that could happen. One is you could do a Colles fracture. If your wrist goes this direction, and that's what happened when somebody falls, you see a beginner and all the black belts have a heart attack. Because what happens, the beginner goes here and they try to brace themselves. Ah! As your hand comes down like this, it will hyperextend. See the left hand, and it can break very easily. Why? Because as you go like this, the bones can't wrap, and they are hyperextended. And by stretching that out, it makes the bones extremely fragile, and you can break not one, but two bones. See that x-ray up there? Delightful. That's what usually happens. It's very hard to break one bone in the wrist. It's pretty easy to break two. Rat, two for the price of one, yeah. So the bottom line is if you see somebody like this, now you could call that for a Colles fracture, but remember I said twist in, that's why you're preventing it. If I fall like this, and I come back and go like that, it will jam the arm and break the wrist. If I come back like that, it will fold in. So if you watch the basketball players who like to fall, see Steph Curry 2 games ago, that lovely little thing where he tripped over the other center, shot the ball, and then rolled like that, looked over, and of course the ball went in, he got a foul, it was lovely. But he turned the fingers away from the fall. If you point towards the fall like this, you'll jam the forearm. If you turn it away, it'll roll in on you. Now the opposite, notice on that one, it was this direction with it breaking. This can also happen. That happens most commonly, some people call it a boxer fracture is in the hand, but a boxer wrist strike is when you punch and the wrist folds like this. Heavy bag will do that to you. Somebody throws a heavy bag at you, you go, yeah, bam, and you hit slightly at the wrong angle. It will fold it, and you'll get a Smith's fracture. Why are they called different things? Well, they're a little bit different, but nonetheless, the end result is you end up with a fracture. I would guess that one is of a Colles, just because of the height of the break. as opposed to a Smith. So just in case you were wondering. So Colles fracture versus Smith fracture, be very careful. Neither of them are fun and joy, but they come from having the hand incorrectly folded in like this or stretched out like that. There are times that a block can be a strike. In this particular case, Lily was going whack, so I was reaching at her. I think I had a knife. Well, I did have a knife in my hand because it came flying out, and she went whack. If you twist the wrist on the block, that twists the bones together, makes it much stronger. Notice once again, the blue and red are switching sides. Why? Because Lily's getting a lovely twist into the strike. That's absolutely essential. The other thing is notice I do point out a strong stance so that you can do the twist from the hips. Very important. Lots of exercises that we should be doing. Kind of the push up to a plank, lovely thing. Just twisting on sit-ups, I love that. You say, well, what does that do with the arms? But notice what's happening with the arms as you're coming through. You're supposed to be learning to twitch it. Side planks, scissors, mountain climbers. Some people love those. I think she's in love with mountain climbers. Cross tees. It's just getting these things out. The side. You'll get people who want to do this kind of thing. Oh yeah. All kinds of lovely things. Up down planks. You notice that, for example, one of the things I have you guys do is low shoots and high shoots. All kind of variations of that up down. That up down plank is kind of a beginner version of that. Bottom line is there's lots of things to do. You don't have to bulk up. You don't have to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but you do have to tone up. That means both the stretching and the strengthening of the muscles as they go through. As with all the lectures, the exercises at the end, so questions. Sir? So this person has a forearm down, and I was taught it by putting one foot on top of the other, but you're doing an oscillation, and you'll find that the thing poops out first is your arm. Sir?
Suppose you break your wrist, what is the first aid option?
Yeah, don't hurt it anymore. Yeah, what I tell people is just sling it. If you don't have a sling, just take your t-shirt and hang it down like that and just go in. We have the advantage, we have these lovely dobaks, and as Grandmaster Kong used to say, perfect sling. Don't take off your dobak, just walk into an emergency room like that. You're in martial arts uniform, they'll go, ah. And on a couple of occasions we did have people get broken, and this does turn out to be the perfect sling, by the way. Not that it takes away from the fact that you have to go to the emergency room to get it set, but still gives you the idea. But yeah, go forth, get it set, and do it fairly quickly. The problem is the swelling will start setting in, things like that, and that does cause problems. Any other questions? Sir?
I think we use haymakers as an example of what like an untrained puncher might do. But physically, does that actually generate more force than a reverse punch?
So a haymaker is the question, and this is that's a hook. Generally, a haymaker is from the back, so it's very strong, gets nice torque and all that. It can generate more force. It is much, much slower because of the distance it travels and because it's using different exercise, which is why on a lot of punching exercise, especially in karate says, look, they know that a rear punch is going to be slower, but if it goes straight, it's got the least distance and therefore much stronger in that sense. The problem with the haymaker is if the person can see it coming, of course, the number of counters goes up astronomically. But, if you're punching someone from behind, I suppose it would be slightly stronger. Problem with the haymaker is as it comes in, there's a difference. A lot of people are taught to punch with these two knuckles, but on an uppercut, I was always taught to punch with these three. And the reason is on an uppercut, in order to do the torque, you're going to hit those three, as opposed to if I'm torquing this way, I'm going to hit with those two. Thus the difference between hitting with these three knuckles versus those two, depending on which way you're torquing. Haymaker, which way are you torquing? Well, you're kind of torquing in, but what happens is you tend to hit just this one knuckle. You do that, there's a high probability of breaking your own wrist, your own knuckle, and there be a problem. And so you'll see that kind of thing on an X-ray where they've shattered that particular knuckle. Bam! Holy crap! And there's a lot of nerves in there, so be careful with it, sir.
Could you talk a little bit about like doing a vertical punch?
Okay, there are vertical punch. Vertical punch depends on the angle it's being struck at. So on a vertical punch, that means the fist is on the vertical side. What I was always taught, because I started in jiu-jitsu, which is a self-defense thing, he always said, guard your face and punch right down on his pelvis. If you've never been punched right at the belly button, it tends to collapse the person, and they tend to hit the floor. So if you block here and go bam and hit somebody right on the pelvis, it's what they call a pants dropping technique. Well, it sounds like you're pulling down their pants. Nope, their pants just hit right onto the floor. And in the old tournaments, you'd have people, and you'd see the guy just kind of go like that. And so on that one, it came down, and you got a little bit of those two knuckles there as it came down. On the other hand, if you ever teach it going up, so sometimes you'll have people who block and scissors through like this, then I'm going to hit with those three. So you have to give me a target. And that you, of course, being an evil law student, will say, well, what happens if it's halfway in between? Yeah, got it. You're going to have to choose high or low. And everybody's a little bit different. I tend to do the three knuckle punch because of my background until I can't any longer. And so I use the belly button there. One of the things in jiu-jitsu that was very interesting is they did not mind punching in the leg. So there's a lot of times that we'd be sitting there and they just go bam right onto the quad of somebody. And then they just kind of go. And that, of course, would be hitting here. Maybe here, but as soon as I got to the solar plexus, I went to the three. Vertical fist is a hard one to do in the sense that it's a little bit dangerous to the hand, and so I don't tend to teach it until a little bit later on.
Are there any static muscles in the back knuckle?
Are there any static muscles?
Yes.
Absolutely. Where? So here I am.
Maybe in your abdomen?
Yeah. The body, the torso has to be, because you're going to smack, and this whole thing is, do the force vectors on it. You're sitting here going, wait a minute, that whole arm, if I hit here, this arm wants, right, if this hits this way, the arm wants to go that way. You have to have made the rest of the body firm enough that it will take that strike to maximize the transfer of energy. So, yes, but I agree, it's not real obvious. You'll see people dance around going, ah-ha! And that's what happens, in martial arts movies all the time, because the stuntmen are kind of, well, they weren't tense anywhere. And then the other stuntman goes, yeah. I agree, I wouldn't want to get hit with a very fast back knuckle on the nose. But if they hit anywhere but on the nose, how much energy was transferred and did it really bother you?
Is there any potential difference in the reverse punch versus a boxer's cross?
Yes, of course. And I had my boxing coach made a huge difference between the different types of strikes in that there are, what we're talking about here is on a reverse punch. It's taught in a lot of martial arts as a fairly linear thing, but you can turn it in a little bit and a little bit more. Somewhere between a hook and a straight oizuki is a lot of other truths. What is the target? Is it straight here on the level of my shoulder? Is it higher? Is it lower? The angle is going to make a huge difference. And so, yeah, there's a panoply I like that word, of different strikes you could do, and you would have an argument over all of them being all kinds of things of which muscles are red, which muscles are blue, static versus dynamic, and also what part of the hand you're going to be striking, etc., etc. So I agree it's not a simple thing, but I've had boxing instructors spend a month on that topic alone, especially when you're in boxing. Of course, you can't attack below the waist, but so you can attack almost as long as you protect the head into the body, and you see a lot of that kind of thing. And it does change the way you can strike. Why? Because you can't be counter-struck low. Or you shouldn't be. The other guy gets a foul. Foul! Failure to continue. Winner. Well, that doesn't seem very fair, does it? Any other questions? That concludes the last lecture of this semester. Thank you very much.